Just keep in mind when you use free tools, you're actually, all the data you're sending will also be used to retrain. So if you're into enterprise concept and setups, just keep in mind that all the data you send could be used to retrain the model. So just keep in mind of sensitive data. Now we are into the what in the hell is AI in GitLab? So when did we use? What happens with the GitLab Duo part? So we recently launched GitLab Duo, which is our suite of capabilities that provide AI-assisted workflows for everyone involved in developing and deploying software. So again, keep in mind, this is not just developer-focused. And our approach to AI and giving AI or access to AI to personas in the SDLC is differentiated in 3 ways. First of all, AI, again, is integrated throughout the software development lifecycle. Second of all, we keep privacy and security in mind. Again, we are open source. We are a company behind an open source platform. We all know what that means, and we know how important that is to enterprises and companies alike. And finally, we architected our platform to not only use best-in-class model, but to also be future-proof. Because as you may already know, generative AI is a very complex topic, and it's also a topic that grows a lot and evolves a lot very, very rapidly. So that's why we architected in such a way, but more to that later. And why did we do that? We did that because when speaking with prospects and customers, we saw very common problems popping up. Somewhere about triaging security vulnerabilities or enforcing security standards, ensuring that no low-quality code will get to deployment phase, or just poor development experience. And this is important because nowadays, with lots of framework coming up, customers, and having lots of requirements from your application, these all lead to having a lot of context switching to do. Also, because of lots of companies that have siloed planning and project management situation where it just weakens the collaboration across teams. And if you keep that in mind, all these obstacles that keeps growing and growing are made worse without having AI throughout the SDLC. And we'll see why and how later. But the solution that we try to bring to you is to have a comprehensive AI-powered DevSecOps platform. So all the capabilities you might have in a software development lifecycle, so the planning and creation, the create stage, the integration and verify, all up to monitor and improve, are all tied together, and this is important, with a single data store. And that's important when you add AI to the calculation, because, and this is an analogy I usually take, is it's like when you go to your printer, maybe you're in your office, work office, and you're trying to print something and your printer doesn't work. You find an IT ticket and say, look, printer doesn't work. What will come back with, the printer person will come back to you and say, look, have you tried turning it off and on again? Is your PC even running? What kind of OS are you running? Does the printer have paper, have ink? So again, you might see what I'm leading at is the more context you give your AI companion, the more meaningful response you will get as a benefit. So having all the information from, I have this issue, the code I deployed is this one, the analytics and metrics of this one, these are the customer, this is the environment I found this error in. If you give this information, all of this information at once, it will definitely bring down the time it takes for you to fix the issue, if it's an issue we're talking about, and it will also bring up the accuracy of the response you get from the models. And coming back to the first point we differentiate with is the throughout development lifecycle. Most companies think about generative AI in terms of allowing developers to be more productive. But again, I have a developer background, and surveys say that across 8 hours of work, on average, of course, the time spent writing code is actually just 25% into a day, into a month. And yes, if using generative AI to empower developers could bring you 30, 40, 50% improvement, that's just a drop in an ocean when it comes to solve the whole picture. So going from idea into realization. And this is why for us at GitLab, it's important to focus not just on developer productivity, but just the whole company productivity when it comes to creating application. So you will find AI infused capabilities in all of these aspects. Then coming back to the second point, we built the AI capabilities to ensure that they are at enterprise levels. We want you, the individual, or you, the enterprise, to be using such capabilities and have the confidence to say, look, my code, my IP, or my statements that I'm putting into this model are not going to be used to retrain, or the content that gets sent to me does not lead me or my company to IP infringement lawsuits. So this is in terms of privacy. And how you achieve that confidence is through transparency. We publish a very thorough description of where and how the data flows from you to your company's data centers to the cloud and back. And what do we store and what do we send you back? This is all part of the transparency mechanism. And we publish the amount of type of models we as GitLab use to provide such capabilities. Currently, for example, and that leads to the third point, we use at least 5 or 6, and now kind of lost count, AI models, most of them coming from Anthropic and or Google. So we have a web page. So if you need the details, you can either search for GitLab Duo, or someone from my peers could just paste the GitLab Duo website, where each and every capabilities we publish will be clearly defined into that, which kind of model we use and on which version they are available from. So that leads me to the solution. And again, it will take just 5 more minutes, and then I will let Idir take over and just walk you through the hands-on part if you're interested in that. So this is for you who may have never seen this, is the GitLab workflow that starts from the epics all throughout the deployment stage. And this means that we took the usual GitLab workflow and we enhanced it with AI features and capabilities, like generating issues from descriptions. And again, me as a developer, I always struggle to sometimes make my way up to the chain, to the product managers, to the UAT testers, to customers, and trying to express myself and letting them know that no, that was not a bug because of X, Y, Z. This definitely helps our customers save time when dealing with additional content and creation. You can even ask for a summary when such issues and epics become too large, for example. Or going down the GitLab workflow, you'll find features and capabilities like code suggestions. This is the 25% I was talking about. But no one wants to be bogged down by broken CI/CD pipelines. So that's why we built the root cause analysis capabilities. Or no one wants to have a working code, but you are too afraid to touch again, because what if it would break? That's why we built the test generation and code explanation feature, for example. Coming down the chain, and again, shifting the user persona, it's all about vulnerability summary. So what exactly are you telling me? Scanner. But the code I built is not secure enough. So instead of Googling, for example, you could literally ask the generative AI to give you additional context and pertaining to the specific code you built. And again, this is a different point of view. So yes, you saw the GitLab workflow. Now you can look at different user personas or phase of the SDLC and see that, for example, if you're into the phase of developing features, you might be interested in such capabilities. Whereas if you're into taking charge of your CI/CD, you're into the, let's build the CI/CD pipeline for my application, you might be leveraging such capabilities. All of these capabilities are given to you in multiple forms. You can consume them via the browser. You can consume them from your self-managed instances, or you can actually consume them via the GitLab chat. Now, some of them are still into an experimental phase, so things will likely evolve for the better. But just keep in mind that coming back to the single data store, having context to the whole process and giving such a context to the model will definitely and greatly improve the response you get from the models. That's that. There's the GitLab workflow, just enhanced with the AI capabilities we built. Again, coming back to the purpose of why we built GitLab Duo, it's all about making everyone more productive. And by everyone, we're not just thinking about developers, we're thinking about testers, we're thinking about security engineers, C-levels, we're thinking about project managers. So helping them triage issues faster, helping them communicate with your customer faster, and just automate these repetitive tasks that just make you lose focus to what's really important, which is to deliver value to your customers. That leads me to the hands-on exercise. So if you want, Idir, take over. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Massimo. Yeah. So allow me for a few seconds. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Perfect stuff. Thank you again, Massimo. Thank you, everybody here. So I think we got a question, by the way, if you before jumping on that one. So I just want to make sure that everything that Massimo was saying before, we will try to apply most of the things here. Of course, we have a controlled environment to make sure that we give you the best experience and best output possible. But at the end, we all would like to have you all trying out with your own code and things like that. So before moving forward, I just want to make sure that most of you, if not all of you, have access to your environment using the redeem code that we have shared at the beginning. So great stuff if we've made it. By the way, if you have any questions, same as previously, as Massimo said, we have the Q&A section. Please ask questions over there. And in the meanwhile, while I'm trying to go through the different steps, I'm going to stop for a few minutes to make sure that you all have the time to go through every single step, if that makes sense. Cool. So let's move on. By the way, we got the question here. If yes, we will share the questions with you. So the first thing we have to do is we have to basically click through that link. Is the sample project Tanuki, and I believe that my colleague Breno, my colleague Massimo will share that link on the chat, so you all have access to it. So once you have this information over there, I mean, you are already linked and opened that link. Thank you very much, Peter. Once we get there, we most likely gonna see this project happening, basically the Tanuki racing. And the next step that we have to follow is to click on the fork. For the ones who are not really familiar with the UI, if you go into the project level and you go into the right side, next to the star, you should be able to see the forks, and then you just have to click on that button. Cool. I'm gonna just wait 1 minute until all of you have clicked and you have already reached that point. And I said, everybody, you have the link on the chat. Perfect. I'm assuming that you all got to that point. You have the screen, what you can see in the left, and then we are now going to proceed to move and create the fork in our new workspace, our project. So if you all remember, you had like a code that you actually not code, sorry, namespace that you had at the beginning. When you redeem the code, we most likely have provided you, and actually I'm going to share that with you. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. So once you create your group, most likely you have received or have landed in this page here. Let me see if you can see that, all of you. Because I see that it's not sharing everything. Yeah, great. So probably we have landed in this page, which basically says my test group, and then you have a code here. So make sure that you're copying this code. And then whenever you go to the fork, so we will land to this page here, we have to type this code into the select and namespace in here. So we just click and we click. I mean, I don't think it's gonna show up again. It will show up again, but I have already created, so I'm not gonna do it again. But then you have to select the namespace that you had previously. You click on it, and then you see probably the project slang will be the same. So keep it exactly as it is right now. You don't have to do anything like all the branches, private and everything else. And then you have to click on fork project here. So let's see if I can you have to click in the fork project option. Give me a second here, truck. Once we go to the fork project, I'm gonna give you some minutes until you get the fork thing. And if everything went well, then you should land into the project. Just maybe remove the marker here. Once you get to the project, you should be able to see the fork in your own project. So make sure that it's under your namespace. And once you get there, we have to make sure that we're gonna remove the fork relationship. And then how can we do that? We have to go into the settings option in our project. And once we go into settings, we have the first option, which it says general. Then once we go into that screen, we just click on the advanced option. If you click and expand, it will open like a drop down, but a new view, a new section. And then we have to scroll all the way down and we will see something called remove fork relationship. Cool. If you're there, great stuff. Click on the remove fork relationship. It will open a pop-up asking you to make sure that you want to remove this relationship. And yeah, just have to type the project name. You type it over there and you just hit the button, the remove fork relationship. Just waiting for a few seconds to make sure that everybody is aligned. Everybody I got there. Remember, I'm gonna do it again in my screen if somebody wants to follow. once we land in this screen, which is basically my test group, so you can see session, this is the code I got, my test group, and here's the namespace. I go to I have the Tanuki Racing project. I click on it. Here I have the entire project, and I have to go to settings, going all the way up to general. We click on it. We land into the settings page. Then we have to scroll all the way down to advanced and expand, which is here. And then we have to scroll all the way down until we see where it's not longer here, but here we'll have another section saying that remove fork relationship. So we have to click on it, and then it's done. Massimo Breno, can you please help my colleague T's here say have no project in the group? I think Massimo's already taking care of it. Great. For the rest of the people, let's move on. Because once we got to that point, now it's time to go into the project. So we go to our project here, Tanuki Racing. Make sure that you are in your own group and you're not in the general one. So once we are there, we go to courses, which is part of the repo, like it's a folder. We go to workshops, and then we go to AI. Great. So if you are at that point, as I said, it's a great success. So let's move on into the first and the proper hands-on part, because everything else was just basically a prerequisite that we had to make in order to work together. So we click on the first README. Again, as I said, I'm going to make a pause between different exercises because I understand that we all need some time to do by ourselves. It's difficult to follow me and at the same time you're writing. So what I'm going to do is going to tell you what you have to do, what is written there, and then I'm going to give you a few minutes until you complete the exercise. Make sure that you have, if you get stuck or you have any question, please ask that question, and my colleagues together with myself, we're going to support you. This is the introduction. Basically, I'm not going to go through it because it's something that Massimo did pretty well. So I'm not going to repeat the same thing over and over. The first part, if you have never ever used GitLab Chat Duo, then you probably don't have to reset and clean like the messages, but I'm going to show you how to do that. So you should, all of you have access or like see the help button, which is like right in the bottom of the screen on the left side. So as you can see, it's here. It says help. So we have to go over there. And then we just click on it. And then we will see here, like the GitLab Duo chat with a Tanuki icon. So what we have to do there is just hit on that, click it, and then we will have in the right bar side, we will have something which says GitLab Duo chat. So here we go. We got there to that point. If you had any previous questions, as I said, most of you probably you don't have it if you have never used it. But the first thing we do is to basically reset the context. I have done it before. The same with clear, to remove any kind of message that we had before. This is to make sure that we are not really populating or using previous context, because keep in mind that GitLab Duo chat, it can be shared across the different projects and groups. So what we're trying to do here is to make sure that we are not using previous context. Yeah. If you are okay, please write in the webinar chat that everything is okay before moving forward. I just want to make sure that most of us, we are moving ahead. Great stuff. Very good. I like that. Perfect. Thank you very much all. Nino, you're late, but I think you're catching up. Happy to hear that. Great. So let's move on. All the features, as we know that it's already enabled on this account, so all of you have access. Code changes has to be enabled at least on the top level group. So as you already know, or know, probably you know, and GitLab we work with groups, subgroups, and projects. So most of you, or actually all of you, have this one enabled in the group level, and we have already managed to for you, so you don't have to. You should have access to it. If you need that, as I said, we're going to share this documentation, and you have this README file in your own project. But if you want to understand how to enable it and things like that, we have like the documentation, how to enable code suggestions and how to enable the other things over there. And it's basically the settings. But now we can just, or you can actually, it's true, you can use the GitLab Duo chat to ask the question, like how can I enable code suggestions to my own account? At the end, it's a kind of assistant that it will allow us to stop asking questions in Google and make it a bit easier not moving from the platform. Now, one of the things that we are trying to do, the first one is create an issue. This is at least to me, that I'm a bit lazy sometimes to write issues. We're gonna try to create an issue. As you can see, I have pinned issues because it's something I create and I use a lot. But let's go and create one issue. I'm gonna keep this tab open. Okay, so I'm gonna open the issues tab. And then we have to create a new issue. Keep in mind that it's a new issue here. So if you follow the documentation, it says here, just give me a second, we have to switch to this type of I mean, usually it's in rich text editing, but we switch to the plain text editing, which is that one. We will see that a Tanuki description will show up. So what we have to do here, we have to make sure that we are copying and pasting this prompt, like secure our CI/CD pipeline and fix the newfound vulnerabilities. So we go to the issue, I click into the Tanuki, and I generate issue description. And here we basically have to type the prompt, and we click submit. Take some time, and as you can see, it's creating a full description. The issue, let me just show you on how the rich text looks like. Issue, secure CI/CD, the summary, and things like that. Here, what we can do is we can assign it to ourselves. And we can actually create the issue. So just hit the issue. Here we can create the title, find a vulnerability. It's here. Oh, actually, I'm going to create a due date too, because to make sure that I'm not forgetting to do it. So I'm going to create a month from now, set to myself, and then hit create. So we finalized the first part, which is creating the issue. So what we are going to do right now, I'm going to give you a couple of 3 minutes to go through it. And yeah, as soon as you're finished, you can just move on. And as again, you can write on the chat if you want that it's done. So we can move on into the second question, to the next part. We try to make it as intuitive as possible, because at the end, it's the main goal is not to make it more complex. So hope for you, it was helpful, this part. Yeah, actually, by the way, if you have this project in your namespace, you should be able to see this issue too. I'm gonna repeat again and show you where the issue is located, but let's imagine you are in your own namespace. Actually, this is the whole thing, but let me go for mine own, which is that one. I'm in my own, you should be in your own namespace. You have to click into the Tanuki Racing project. Inside, we have courses here. We have to go to workshops. We have to go to AI. And then we have to click on the modern development with GitLab AI. And here you have all these instructions in case you want to do it again by yourselves. In case in Sandeep, if you're trying to go into the issue itself and you create the issue, keep in mind, create a new issue, that it has to be in the plain text. Then once you click the plain text here, then you should be able to see the AI actions. Plus, my colleague Massimo just shared the slides, so you can follow them. Cool. So let's move on to the next part. So as you said, we create already using AI description for our issue to basically track the vulnerabilities. Now the next steps are going to be to generate the data for our pipeline. So what we are going to make sure here is that we have already, I'm gonna go through it, but I'm gonna just go through the instructions. We're gonna go through our pipeline and change the GitLab CI file. I'm gonna replace the content with this actual content, which is basically a simple thing. We're gonna add some Docker variables in order to build it. We're gonna ask some scanners with code quality, the testing, container scanning, and things like that. And then some X-ray at the end. And once it's done, we're gonna commit and make the pipeline run. So the first thing I'm gonna do, or we have all to do, is to copy the content of this pipeline. And then we're gonna go back again to our project. So we're gonna go to build, we are gonna go to pipelines, and then we will have the pipelines open. The next is to go to the pipeline editor, which should be open here. And then here we will see the current pipeline. So we're going to select the entire pipeline, we're going to remove it, and we're going to paste the one that was in our documentation. As you can see, those are all the templates that we are using. Everything is new. And then here we have the pipeline itself, update GitLab CI file, and then we're going to commit it to the branch. And then I commit changes. So our changes are changed successfully. So once we do that, we can just jump straight into the pipeline. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do that before moving forward. Actually, if you are doing well, then you can go and use the thumbs up option instead of writing it in the Slack, so I can make sure that you are all, some of you are already set. Perfect. Exactly. Look, you're moving very good, really overhead. That's exactly what should happen. The build has to fail. So now I'm going to go back again to the documentation, to the instructions. So we are going to understand what's going on. So here we basically, the next step is basically to, as I said, the pipeline is now running, and we'll come back later to workshop to make sure that, to see what's happening. But we're going to fix the pipeline. As I think, sorry, I missed the name. Yeah, Luca said the pipeline should fail. That's the expected behavior, because we want to basically use AI to understand what's happening and to make sure that we can have a root cause analysis based on the AI to fix it. So here, I think it's easier if I go through the pipeline itself. So we're gonna all go to the view. I'm gonna just refresh. And then we can all see that there is a job here, which is failing, right? So you should all be able to see that. If it's working, that is not expected. I mean, I'm happy that it's green, that everything is working everything is green, but it should be red to make sure that we are running the purpose. So here we see that the build itself is failing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on the build option. And then here we see that there is failure itself. And let's imagine we don't know what's happening. We are not happy, even though we already see here the line, which is saying, but we're going to click on the root cause analysis, which is in the top you all have to see, you should have this button here. So once we click on that one, then it will explain us what is the root cause analysis, and then we're basically gonna click on it. And this will give us some information. Cool. So it gave us some information, and he's saying that the job failed because the apt command was not found in the container. So this information, together with this information, we already understand that there is an issue. This is an issue with the command that we use in the container, which is not installed. It's apt, which is not installed. So how to fix that? We go back again to our editor and we try to find out where is the problem. And here, most of you can see that there is only one apt command running, which is the apt list installed. It seems that we didn't install it. It doesn't exist in our container. So what we're gonna do here, we're just gonna remove these two lines. Like I'm gonna repeat again, the line 33 and 34 has to be removed since we don't have this command here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove it. Once it's done, we're gonna hit here, commit changes, it will commit, and this one will trigger another pipeline. He would say, basically saying checking pipeline status. So we're gonna wait a little bit, but when it's done, the pipeline is running. So I can see here the pipeline. I'm gonna give you again 1 minute to see if that works for you, and we're gonna move forward. Hope you all can show a thumbs up to make sure that things are going well. Yes. No, usually it's a really common, I agree with you, Marcel, but it's a really common issue, especially in containers, that we all assume that we're using the same managed system. And sometimes apt is not, it's just not there. We are not using because we're using APK or something similar. So sometimes I think we forget that containers are too reusable, and we don't really check which kind of image, which base image we are using. So this is it wasn't a simple solution. You don't have to update anything because right now it's not really installed. Yeah, since I see that most of you have finalized and now it's still like building, it will take still some time to finalize the build, but I believe that yes, as you can see now, it's running, it's not failing. Before it failed really faster. So if you reach that point, if you reach that point, then you can be happy then, and we can move to the next section. Yeah, Clemens, I the thing is, it says remove it, but it's the purpose of this webinar. That's why I was telling you what we have in this webinar is to make sure that we are showing you what it does, but it doesn't mean that the output is always the same. It really depends on the use case. So if you have because you will have a couple of days this environment, you can use it also to test by your own pipelines. Somebody's saying that the pipeline now it's working, so let's try it. In my case, it's still taking a little bit longer. Oh no, it's passed, exactly. You're right. So as you can see, we have now the job done. Cool. Now we're gonna move a little bit more into the the chat duo. I'm gonna close it. Here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask the chat duo, which is I think the simplest part. We go again to the chat here. You go to the GitLab Duo chat. Again, remember that we run before the resetting clear. So here we're just gonna copy and paste, create a .gitlab CI YAML file configuration for testing and building a Ruby Sinatra application in GitLab. So I'm just gonna copy that, paste it, and hit enter. And it's every single AI has to think like we all do, humans. So this will basically will think when we talk about the context and all the information we got. It will take some time. Usually it shouldn't take more than a minute, but it's just thinking about that. So that's the very first is step to do. Let's give it stick here. Here's a sample. Great stuff. So as I mentioned right now, since it's building, it should show up as a not really well prepared formatted, but now it's done. So as you can see here, it basically telling us it's a Ruby, so it's docking in Docker, using the vendor file for the cache. So it's a full like working pipeline, or let's say GitLab CI that will work for a default like up to date CNAT application for Ruby. I did exactly the same thing for Node.js. I did the same thing for Java. So I have been trying that for different languages, and it's working pretty well for every. Of course, if you're looking for a more complex files, what you have to do is to provide the better input you provide to the AI system, the better output you will get. So if you just say, give me a generic like GitLab CI file, it will give you a generic one. But if you say, I want I want to deploy this specific environment, I want to do the specific changes on my pipeline, or my application requires some dependencies, it will happen. Do answered. Yeah, in that case, if the GitLab Duo chat tells you that, you can reset, like /reset, and then pose the question again. That might be something that you had with your network. I'm gonna give you 1 minute for moving to the next. Perfect. Let's move on to the last, almost the last topic of this Ask More for GitLab Duo chat. This is basically about creating documentation. So as we're gonna do here, we go to the code part, we go to repository, and again, all the time I'm opening a new tab because I want to make sure that I keep the documentation here, like the instructions in your screen. So whenever we can go back and forth, you can follow the instructions. I hope that you also have it open in your own. So we go to code, we go to repositories, and then we have to go to lib. We have to go to the Tanuki Racing folder, and then we have to go to the app.rb. So once we do that, you should be, all of you have been in this file. Once we've got here, the next step would be to go to the chat. I have the tendency to close and open because I like to close and open things. But once we are here, what we have to do is we have to type the right documentation for the Ruby app. It will basically write a generic one, like how does it look like? But I think we can use it. Yeah, that's something it's good that my colleague Massimo wrote on the chat. Some features are still experimental or in a beta version. So expect that happen from time to time. It doesn't really happen often, but it's true that the context can influence a lot on the outcome. So if it doesn't work, it should work if you write it again, because it happened to me. But again, that's why it's not, we work it in our documentation as a beta or experimental to make sure that you all understand that we are still training the system, and we're giving it like we're giving it a try. Actually, see as example here, the other option, because sometimes, as I said, it doesn't really work as expected. Well, the other thing I do is to just write the entire code and say here, write a README file for this piece of code. Then I can just type the entire thing and it will basically build it. It will take some time at the end. So as you can see, he is writing the entire documentation file, the requirements, the usage. even the name itself. And then you get all this information. So we can eventually use this information like this code, the whole README file that it was generated by AI to basically copy and paste it together with the. Can you see my screen now? I think it was frozen for some reason. So I repeat again, I just had to basically here, I said, write me a README file for this piece of code. And then here, what I did is basically copied and pasted the code itself, and I put it here. And the output was actually this. You can see in the bar side. It says all the overview of what the application does, what are the requirements, which is the usage, and then the different ways to make it work based on the ports that we have been opening and things like that. So for the people like who doesn't really like to write a lot of documentation, which we all try to make really efficient in documentation, but we know that over the time it's difficult to keep it up. This is a really good tool that will help you to keep track on it, and you don't really have to spend a lot of time on going and formatting. I mean, the thing that I dislike the most from the Markdown is to have to go through the different formatting systems. So once we do that, it will work. I'm gonna give you 30 seconds to digest this part, and then I'm gonna go back again to the next topic. Well, at the end, the last point here is you can ask or share you can ask any question you want to GitLab do a chat, and if you want to share the questions and responses and the issue, then feel free to do it. Cool. If it's everything set again, I will ask you to do the thumbs up thing so we can move forward. You see thumbs up coming. Let's wait a little bit more. Yes, exactly. You're right, Chris. You have to write the full path in order to get the output. You can do exactly the same thing as we're just gonna do it here so you can all see it. And thanks, Chris, by mentioning that. We can just type the same thing if you see in my screen. If you type write documentation for the lib key, basically the path of the file, it should work in the same way. Okay. So I think it's also good for you if I make a 5 minutes break for a bit, because I think we touched a lot of different things. So we created the issue using the AI system to generate a new, let me just go up. AI to create a new issue in the description. I think we all managed to do that. We generated a new pipeline, and we tried to fix a failed job by using the root cause analysis together with the number 2. And now at the end, we created documentation for one single file by either copy and pasting or providing the full path of the file into our GitLab Duo chat. So once we do that, I'm gonna give you a 5 minutes break before we restart again. So take a coffee, take a glass of water, or just play around with GitLab Duo chat, and we will come back to you. If you have any question, by the way, while we have a break, feel free to write down things on the chat, and I will still answer to you if it's needed. If somebody has an issue or didn't reach the point, please also flag it here. We try to guide you. Let's give it a couple of more minutes to restart again, and then we will talk about the security part of AI, which I find it really, really interesting. Cool. I think we are all ready. Please, can you mark a thumbs up if you are all ready to start with the second part? Great. Things are just coming in. Hope you all like getting it. So let's then restart with that. Cool. So now let's go to the second part, which is analyze vulnerabilities. As I think as my colleague Massimo mentioned, we are not only focused on one thing, which is generating code, which is interesting, but we find out that AI can help us in a different parts of the development lifecycle. One of the things that we did at the beginning of this workshop, like during the hands-on part, was the developer efficiency, like making sure that we are basically faster in writing documentation, faster on writing, describing issues, helping us a little bit more into how to troubleshoot a pipeline, because I think it happened. I mean, I used to work a lot to the infrastructure space, and having especially back in when I was working in the C coding, where it was failing, it says line 15 failing, but actually the line wasn't that one, it was something else. Having a tool which basically helps you to tell you that eventually the problem can be this specific line of code and how to fix it, it's really helpful. And now we're going to move on to what happened if somebody's introducing a new vulnerability and how to actually fix that. So the first thing we're going to do is to, first of all, understand how can we see if we have actually introduced a vulnerability. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go again to the left part side, and we have the build and we have pipelines. So again, as I said, I will always keep one tab open because I want to have the instructions here, but we're going to go to the pipelines. Let's go and click on one single pipeline. Let's click on the one it's working. And here we see that pipelines, everything is great. We have SAST, we have all this container scanning, code quality, everything that we used using templates. By the way, the templates I've used in this workshop are already predefined templates that are part of that GitLab is providing. So if you want to try it out and see how it works, feel free to go through the repo. But here, as you can see, we have two more tabs. We have the code quality part, but because of today's workshop, I'm going to go more into the security tab. As we can see, there are a bunch of vulnerabilities. Don't be scared. It's not something that's going to go to production. It was mainly built for this workshop. But all this kind of is giving us this information, like how critical is the vulnerability, where is the vulnerability happening, which is the identifier, which is the tool, and then we can either get more information or create an issue that relates and try to fix that vulnerability. This is great, but what I like the most is to have a dashboard where you can actually see every single vulnerability, not only within the project, because keep in mind that, as I said at the beginning, GitLab has different layers. We have the group level, we have the subgroups, and we have also projects. Each of those, let's say, layers has its own vulnerability reports. So if you want to have a higher view, you can just go up. So for now, we're going to go to the build. So we're going to go to secure section. we're going to go to vulnerability report. And then once we click there, we will have this a great dashboard, which is showing us how many vulnerabilities have we introduced, split by the severity of each of them. So as you can see, we have a bunch of them which are basically coming from SAST. We have here different tools, but at the end we have a different one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to find AI to help us. The first thing I'm going to do is going to filter by all the statuses. So I don't care if it's triaged or if it's confirmed resolved. I want to have them all. I want to pick something which is a low severity, just for the purpose of this. And then I can use SAST. And then here we will find out that there is one single vulnerability, which is the possible SQL injection. It says it's low. It's telling us what is an identifier, which is a tool, and things like that. So we can just click on it. And here is showing us right now some metadata, like what is the severity, what is the project, what are the different tools that we are getting, and so on and so forth. This is the information that we really helpful. But let's focus onto the AI part right now. And here it says, explain this vulnerability and how to mitigate with AI. The good thing about that is I'm not going to talk. I'm going to just click on it so we can see what's happening. As you can see, everything related to AI, it will open like the GitLab do a chat. So what we're going to do here is we're going to basically click on the explain vulnerability, and it will take the context of the entire piece of code, and then our system will give you some information. So first of all, it's trying to explain. That's, I think, very important thing. It's not about just fixing the issue, but also understanding why it is an issue. Because for example, as me, I'm not the biggest expert in security. To me, learning why I'm doing something wrong, it's as important as fixing the issue to make sure that I'm not going to repeat that again. So here basically is explaining us what is the problem. And here is basically telling us the user input ID is directly concatenated into the SQL. I think for the ones who have been like working in IT for, developing for a while, know already why is it a bad practice to do what we're doing here. Here, but also showing you what is the possible attack given our vulnerability, and towards the end we add here the possible solution. So as you can see, give me a second. It's trying to use placeholders instead. Why we use placeholders? Because usually these functions have already a sanitize function, which basically cleans up the entire thing. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to reach to the point. Remember, we have to go to the secure Unity dashboards. I'm going to go back for it. Status, all statuses, severity, low, tool, SAST. And then we click on the only thing we have here. And then we hit the explain vulnerability button. Are you most of you set? If you do, please, again, as usual, thumbs up. Perfect. I see things coming up. Let's move on here. Also, there is something else that it's good that we get all the information, how to fix it. But one of the things that the tendency is to understand what a specific line of code does. Like we can go and try to focus. Again, we can go to the understand the context of the vulnerability. So we have a vulnerability. We know where the line is. So we are trying to understand what is the surrounding, what is the context of this vulnerability. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back again to the vulnerability script. I think most of you are already here. And then there is a section which is file. Okay. then it will show you the whole file, but it will highlight the line 42, which is where the vulnerability is. So if you're here, great stuff. What we're gonna do right now is we're gonna select the entire function, like the def specific. And then if you see here, there is like a question mark icon. This question mark icon, it's basically our one of our functionalities, which is code explanation. So it takes the code that you are highlighting and it will basically tell you what it's doing. So it can be this specific one. So as you can see here, it says a method on Ruby, gets one argument, takes the ID, creates the leaderboard, and then uses the where clause in order to filter the rows from the database. We can do the same. I don't know. I can just pick here as an example, and we do the same. We click on the self, and it will basically tell you. And the other option is to go straight into the entire file. I have done that sometimes, so we can just click on it. Of course, the output will be a bit longer, but we can use the entire file, and it will tell us the usage and what basically it's this system doing, like in this application doing. This is pretty straightforward. It's I think a very simple one. It works in a different context in different places. But at this point, we should be like let's say fully aware of why and how the SQL injection vulnerability can occur, which is quite good here. So now we are aware of the issues. We are aware of everything. But then there is a nice button here. By the way, just as a comment, I was actually hoping to get that button like a few weeks ago. I was talking to a customer about that topic, and suddenly I saw it. So it's something that I tried while I was talking to somebody, because as I said, we are into experimental mode, but we are just increasing the amount of things that can be used with AI. And this one is the one I like the most, because at the end we get the explanation, we know what's happening, we can get the context. But if we click the result with AI, and I think most of you, or all of you, sorry, have to have this blue button on the top. It's a result AI. We click on it. It will work in a solution when it goes to come. So as you can see, it's AI generated patch, which is a solution generated by AI. It will basically trigger the pipeline, everything. It will create us here like a new branch using from the latest default branch that we have. In our case is main. And if I go to the changes, what it does, if you remember the output of the solution that explained this vulnerability gave us, was actually use a placeholder instead of using the concatenate. So that's what it's doing right now. I'm gonna give you like 1 minute or 2 minutes to complete that part. I'm gonna repeat again. We are on this screen. And then up into the right side, we have the resolve with AI button. We'll click on it, and this one should take us to a new merge request. And then if we click into the changes, we will see a different, remove the previous one and create a new one. Keep in mind, probably not all of you will get exactly the same response. Some of you will get this one, some of you will get sanitized. Keep in mind, it's AI. So it will try to find the best solution for you based on your context. So don't get stressed if it's not exactly the same. So I'm gonna give you 1 minute extra. Cool. So now we're gonna move into the next. Are you all done? I want to see the thumbs up over there, please. Thank you. Great, things are moving forward. Hope you're all enjoying this new learning. Again, this is, let's say, sometimes it can seem like a pretty straightforward, but we also aim to show you all the information in such a short time to make sure that you can do things by yourself, try it by yourself with your own code, and also, of course, give us feedback. We really appreciate that. So we're gonna go back again to the instructions. We have already finalized this option, the implement the fix, and we're gonna move into the resolve SQL injection. And as I said, we all have already some context around how to fix the SQL injection. So what we're gonna do right now is we are gonna create a merge request based on the issue that we have created in the very first task, and try to work a little bit more code suggestions and things like that. So the first thing we're gonna do here, we're gonna go back to the issues, like plan issues. As all you know, we have already one. You should all have like one issue open. I don't know if you have used the same like issue name as me, but you should have only one issue. So we have to click on it. Here we have all the issue with the description that we created before with AI. And here we have to create or hit the create merge button, which is actually in the right side. If you go down, click on it. This one will create an issue, sorry, a merge request, sorry. As you can see, we are gonna mark it as a draft. It's already marked as a draft. And now we keep it as it is. We go all the way down and then we create merge request. As you can see, it will create a normal merge request. Doesn't contain any changes. That's fine. That's exactly what we are trying to do. I'm gonna wait 30 seconds until you get to that point, because now we are gonna start with changing the code. Cool. Perfect. So let's move on. Now, most of you should have the code. Sorry, I keep saying most of you, but it's not most of you. All of you should have the merge request with a draft, things like that. Then we can go to code here up on the right side, and we have to go to the open in web ID. For the ones who don't know that, the web ID is let's say kind of a VS Code that you can be used online, and every single GitLab user has and can use in order to change code. It's easier. It's per user, so you don't really have to install anything in your machine. So it's pretty simple to update and change. This next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go back again to the file that has the vulnerability. In that case, it's the libs, and this the Tanuki, and then we have the db.rb. This is the lovely code that we had before. And as you all know, it was the line number 42 that was actually failing, because we were actually concatenating. So here, what I'm gonna do is, instead of concatenating exactly the same file, so I'm gonna just remove that line, and as it's an AI, it's called suggestion. I'm gonna make an experiment and see if the leaderboard function that I want to create, which is exactly the same one, but I'm gonna create it by my own. So here we go. As you can see, it's already given me some hint. Like if you write play, it's also suggesting me like something to continue, but I'm not looking for that specific solution. So we can just close here the quotes, and it's giving me here the ID. And the other solution that you might got from the WebD was the sanitize ID. Actually, here has to be SQL. But yeah, that's probably the other one that you got. But in my case, I'm going to keep it as it was using the ID. I'm going to wait a little bit until you get to that point before moving forward. Remember, go to web open, web ID, and then we have to go to the lib, Tanuki, and then the db.rb, and then line 42, and change and use the learning we got from explaining this vulnerability. Thank you for the thumbs up. That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay, when it's done, I'm gonna restart and continue. Great. So here we have the self get specific. So if you go again to the instructions, you will see that it's gonna ask us to, and here's the add new method. It will gonna basically ask us that our project manager told us that we need to get a function to get rid of fake records, fake accounts. So we're gonna go ahead and write a new line after the get specific to generate this function. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back here. So here we're gonna basically write a delete leadership function using active record. So this should be able to give us some info about the definition. Yes. So I wrote here like the comment about what I want the AI system to do, like our AI code suggestion to do. Then I just wrote def to basically say to the code suggestion that I'm trying to create a definition, a new function. And this one basically created automatically the self-delete leader. If it's because of using active record, this actually will sanitize and everything the ID. So it's not the same as the previous one where we had to sanitize every single one. If that makes sense. So please, you can go ahead and write that. Great. If you all are set, now we are gonna, because we have created already this function, we have to make sure that it's used by the app. So we need to have like a route. As you can see here, we have all the let's say routings. Here we have the routing for get, to get the leaderboard, to edit and things like that. So the next thing I have to do is I'm gonna do exactly the same thing. Write a comment saying, write a post route that calls the delete leader function from Tanuki Racing DB. So here I'm gonna start with post. And as you can see, I just had to write post again and did like the delete leader. This is basically the route. Then what it will do is will take the player, which is like a file from sorry, the ID from the user. We will basically go to the function which is in the Tanuki Racing DB function, and then we're gonna call the delete using the player, and then we will basically redirect to the leaderboard website because we are deleting here. So I'm gonna let you do it by yourself for a few minutes. Remember that everything is actually now we're in the instructions, like the prompts and everything, but we are just using the natural language in order to create that. You're gonna keep it here so you can see it. I'm gonna give you another couple of minutes to do it. I'm gonna give you 30 more seconds to go through it. Cool. Let's go to the next Okay, cool. So now I am actually in the same web ID. Nothing has changed, but now we're gonna go to the Tanuki folder, lib Tanuki Racing. So we have to make sure that we are actually in this folder, because we are gonna create a new file. We're gonna create a new file within this folder, which is gonna call. So let me just create a new file. We're gonna call it calc.ruby. We're just gonna hit enter. So as you can see, we have already a new file called within the Tanuki Racing calc. And here we're gonna ask our code suggestion system to create or to define a new class. So we are gonna ask to create a calculator class for other functions to use. So let's see a little bit, it will take a bit longer. Okay, so it started. Here, usually when the Tanuki icon is happening, it's because it's creating new functions, so it can be in a loop. So it will give us like a really long one. But here it's creating the entire thing. They define different functions for this for the calculator class. I just realized it didn't really create the class itself. It just create the difference. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the calculator class, see if the system will, I mean AI, the code suggestion will create it. Exactly. Now it did. So we can go like as deep as we want. It will, if we don't stop it, it will create every single function. Here. So you can do the same, write the same comment, and in your case, it should type you basically the class over there. Keep in mind that sometimes you have to write here class and make sure that we basically showing you showing you the entire class itself and not just the functions. I'm giving you a couple of minutes to do that. Yeah, sure. I'm gonna go back again. So what you do is you basically write the prompt here in the natural language, like you define a calculator class for others. So whenever you do that, you will see the Tanuki icon showing up next to the line. And it will take some time until it creates the entire class. So then once it's highlighting or basically proposing you a suggestion, you have to like press the tab bottom of your keyboard, and it will basically it will show you, it will create the new class. So I'm doing the same thing here. It's like class. It will take the prompt both and type in here the next functions, something similar. Ah, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Thank you very much. I didn't realize, Teiji, that it's not working because I typed the wrong here, because the class is here. So it's define a calculated class for the other functions to use. And then everything else, let's see how it works that way. I didn't see that. Thank you very much. So as you can see, the class was basically showing up in the next. The reason why it's because I have to type enter to jump into the next line. So let's do it again. So we're now use, and then we click enter. And now it should basically go through the entire. Yeah, I just clicked the wrong button. Now it does. So Yeah, that's it. In terms of the context, it really depends on the context that you're working. I think Massimo's made something that mentioned that the input can be used potentially for retrain the system. So once we have done that, I just want to highlight it's not just Ruby. So if you go to the project to do the AI sandbox, we have plenty of files that can be created. I'm not going to go through it right now, but you can test. We have created like in purpose these files, which are basically test into Ruby, into the Python languages and PHP and things like that, that you can try it. And because of the extension of the file, it will give you basically the suggestion on the specific language. But just keep in mind, it's not we are not just focusing on Ruby and Rails. We're doing Ruby because GitLab is mostly using Ruby, but it's not the only language we are supporting. Cool. So once we got to that point, I'm gonna go to the branch. We're gonna commit into that. We're gonna commit into that specific merge request. I'm gonna wait a few seconds until you get there, and then I'm gonna jump straight into how to create it. Okay, so let's go. Here we're gonna go into, we're gonna commit that file first. It's already merged, it's already created. We're gonna go to this branch, and we are gonna keep it here. You should all like get to that point. So please, if you don't, make sure that you're asking that question on the Slack. Sorry, it's like on the webinar chat. Before continuing, I'm gonna give you another quick break. So in 5 minutes, yeah, exactly 5 minutes, we will get back here to finalize, because we're gonna go through the last piece of information. I just want to again summarize what we did. So remember that at the beginning we did all the issue and things like that, but then we went again. The second part was about analyzing. So the first thing we did was we go through the vulnerability reports. We filtered a specific vulnerability. It was a CQL injection. We asked our vulnerability AI system to find out how to fix it, give us explanation. Then also we used the code explanation to understand what was the function doing and the reason why we are getting a possible like vulnerability issue. And the very last two steps was about resolving the AI, resolving the vulnerability with AI. So by clicking the button, and then we use code suggestion towards the end to create a new function in different files and create a new class, which basically was making a calculator. So this is almost the entire thing, but we are just missing the very last one, which is the AI intelligence, the AI system within our merge request. But I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to take a rest, and then we can move forward. I see here a question around if the AI can convert the project into another language. Also keep in mind that the context currently is not project-wide, but the tab which is open. You can, of course, ask the question and see if it works, but you have to go one by one, file by file. And also the main purpose of the code suggestion right now, or GitLab chat Duo, Duo chat, apologies, it's not really made for that. It's mainly for other things. I'm not saying it won't work. I'm not saying that we won't make it work for in the future, but this is not the main purpose of the AI engine. I would be more than happy to hear, before we kick off again, some feedback from your side in the chat. If you want to share your thoughts, how is it going? If you see that the output of the AI and your experience, more than happy to hear that. One more minute, and we start with the very last point. For all of you who are already in your seats, what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna see and try out a little bit how we can generate tests based on changes that we have made, and yeah, how AI can be used to easier our life when it comes to merge requests and interaction with other colleagues. Just to make sure, I also give you some time to make sure that the entire pipeline is already finalized. Otherwise, we won't be able to get the full summary notes. So say that. Are you all ready? Should we go move ahead? Please, how things are going right now. Thumbs up, and I will kick it off. Thank you, Clemens, Francisco, Ioannis, Elnas. Very good. I will wait for 2 more thumbs up. If I get them, we will start. Great stuff. So let's start again. Well, not start, but continue, sorry. So as I said, the last piece we're going to talk, it's about how to integrate, how did GitLab actually integrated the AI within the merge request, and what is the value? Because as I said, it's not all about the same thing, all about code suggestions. It's not all about how can we make the code, because at the end, there are plenty of things that can be used. And I think people who have been using AI systems didn't only use it to create code, but to other things. We only have to be creative. Somebody here in the chat, and sorry for not mentioning the name, let me just try to find Diego Lopez, ask a question about if we can actually translate the full project into something else. This is actually a really good question. It's actually really good potential usage for AI. As my colleague Massimo, I'm going to verbalize Massimo's answer to make sure that the models are trained in open source context. So the more open source code publicly available, the better precise the model will be. But again, if you have any other ask, like create pipelines, you can want to convert specific Jenkins files into GitLab CI files, things like that, you can try them out, and it can be used. But now let's jump into the last one, without further ado. So now we were actually in the merge request, in this specific merge request, where we made all the changes, as you can see here. And we are going to see the summary. So the first thing we can do is we go to the three dots here. I mean, let's first of all see if the pipeline is done, finished, everything passed. So once we have all this information done, we can go and click on the view summary notes. So once we do that, what summary notes does is take all the activity within the merge request, and then gives you a summary on what was changed. It takes the activity we made in the merge request, it takes also the changes we made, and then it creates the whole thing. So here saying that the main changes are, we added a new route to delete a leaderboard from to delete a leader from the leaderboard. We create a calculator class with the basic arithmetic operations. We updated the get specific method in database module to use the correct syntax, and added a new delete leader method in the database file. So as you can see, we don't really have to go through the different files. We luckily have one summarize of what happened. This will help you a lot when it comes to reviewing code. This one is a really small example, but you will notice the big changes once you have worked in a big project, especially if like happening, I don't know, 100 files, 150 changes, things like that. Using this system will help you a lot to get more information. So please, all of you, try to do the same. Go to the three dots on top of that. Make sure, first of all, that the pipeline that you are running is passed, and then go to the view summary. The reason why I'm saying about the pipeline is to make sure that it also will include, if there is any failure in the pipeline, it will also show up on the summary. Here, since it's not failing, it won't appear. Cool. Now, the part that can be hated the most or can be loved the most, it really depends on your style or how used to are you writing code. Let's try to write some tests to make sure that we are securing even more our app. So we have to go to the change tab. So remember that usually we land into the overview page, and then we go to changes. And here we have different sections. So I'm going to do something. We're going to go to the three dots. By the way, the same thing I showed you before, it can be applied here. If you want to have like explain this code, you can go to the web IDE and you have the explanation of the code. But right now, we can go here. Actually, it's not showing up for some reason. Give me a second, restart. Yeah, it's not showing up here. So let's go back again to the web IDE. Yeah, that's fine. We can go to the web IDE. So let's go and all click on the web IDE here. We can go to this last, select this piece of code. We can go to, if we can select this post, I mean, this changes we have made. We can go to right click on it, and then we have the GitLab Duo chat. And then we can click here on generate tests. This will open the GitLab Duo chat. Let me see again if it's working, because it should write some test, GitLab Duo, generate test. Now it's doing it. If it doesn't work the first time, please do it again. So let's wait for the finding. Can you all confirm that you are in this view, like the web ID, and then you can do that? Great. So this is actually the response. Here's some tests that I would write for the delete leader post. So here's creating the post, and here making the calls and things like that. That's response. Again, is an example. Yeah, sorry. You select the piece of code that you want to create a test for. is for Clemens, and then you right click, and then you have the GitLab Duo chat, and then you click on generate tests, and it will show, and it will open the sidebar, and it will generate that code. Again, we can use this. Eventually, we will integrate it to create a merge request, also to integrate it or create a button, which basically will create add this piece of code within the code. Right now, what we usually do is we try to go for the copy paste. We go to files, here up, and then I don't know if there is I don't have any test, but I'm gonna just do it like quick and dirty. Here, new file, app.test. And here I just click here the result, and how we can get it. Then commit it, and it will kick off into the button. I will give you a few seconds until you get there, a few minutes before you get there, and then let's see if it works all for you. If it doesn't generate the first time, please try it again. Again, select the same piece of code, and then click again on generate test. This is actually, but this is actually not test. Probably you're selecting the, I will ask my colleagues, probably Breno or Massimo, to help you on that. If it doesn't work, usually what we do, I'm going to show you here. If you go to the, again, to the web ID, if that happens, we click on GitLab Chat Duo, and then you can click on reset. And then once you reset, basically you are setting up, resetting again the context, and you can again do the select, and then GitLab Duo chat, and then you can click on generate test. When there are plenty of ways to get to the same functionality. But at the end, you have the web ID. We really encourage you to use the web ID because you have everything integrated within the same UI. Also, if you go to the UI here, I mean, right now I have to dig deep into it to understand a little bit more why it's not working. But it should show up here let me a second. It should show up here. The test cases didn't show up. I have to understand why. Must be some changes on the permissions on my side. But here we have like a generate test cases option, which basically create exactly the same. It will open the GitLab Chat Duo on the sidebar. And if you can see, it's actually doing the same thing here. Taking the context. But yeah, that's pretty much from my side. I want to make sure that you all have access, and again, you can reproduce it. You will have this environment for a couple of more days, 48 hours to play around making it. We usually ask you to move the project to your own namespace if you have it. And that's pretty much everything. So I'm gonna hand it over to my colleague Massimo, if you're there.
Yep.
Great. So I'll hand it to her. I will try to work with Elnas to help on that. Thank you very much, all.
Let me switch over, start video. You should be able to see my screen now.
Yeah, we do.
All right, so let's get back to this. So we learned a lot. Thanks, Dear, for this really awesome hands-on workshop. I know that some capabilities might be or might produce finicky results. Some of it is due to the fact that they are experimental, and some of it is due to the fact that generative AI is not, how do I put it? It's like sometimes it produces correct results and sometimes it produces finicky results. And that's why, first of all, we went beyond just code suggestions. And again, this is to reiterate the message that I wanted to emphasize in the beginning, which is enterprises today must develop a strategy that incorporates AI throughout the software development lifecycle. Developers are not the only user personas that are building application. There is more to that. Although, of course, without developers, you wouldn't have code and you wouldn't have probably an application. So what we built was capabilities around the whole iteration. And again, as you may have seen, the things that generative AI models generate might not be perfect every time. And that's also something that we as humans do most of the time. We don't produce 100% clear and correct code. I recently listened to a talk that Linus Torvalds did about generative AI and all of that. It was in the same line. He said that in order to produce what AI might be very good at, for example, is check on what us humans do and create on our behalf. And this is all about test generations, which is a pain, or even checking for compliance or checking whether or not quality is on par. And again, and this is something I always say to customer and prospects when they're evaluating AI and generative AI capabilities, it's that generative AI provides you some benefit in terms of perceived productivity gain, but you also want to measure the quality of such a product you're gaining benefits from. And it's not just how many lines of code you're building. It's all about how much value you're bringing to your customer. How's the quality threshold going? So by adopting AI, is the value you're delivering to your customer increasing, or is it staying the same, or is it decreasing? Because what eventually needs to happen is that your organization, your company, even if you're a single developer, what AI brings to the table is definitely food for thought, in the sense that if you want to adopt AI, my personal suggestion is to adopt a platform, an application that allows you to control, to build guardrails that ensures that the quality of your code, the tests of your code are in line to what your prospect customers really are looking for forward from your application. That's why we think GitLab is the best platform, the best application that is able to support such a big change in the landscape, because we provide a single platform where enterprises build mission-critical application, and we are built on open source foundation. We are an open core company. And also, we are not tied to any specific cloud provider. So no matter where you're building your application and where your customer will consume your application from, we're here to help and support you no matter what. Now, to close this up, remember there are two faces to the same coin. You know, there are generative AI concepts that help you build application faster with a better quality, better security posture. But there is also the other phase, which is when you're building an application that leverages AI capabilities. So think about face detection, think about chatbots, all such applications, data science projects, data analysis. These are applications that requires lots of machine learning based approach, based concept, which is most of the time, where do I store my data model? Where do I store my lineage graph? Where do I store my experiments? How can I track where my model is compared to where my application code is? How do I track the, I don't know, F1 score of my models I deployed throughout the world? This is where we think, and we have a specific category that we are building. Some of it has already been released, like the ML flow enabling AI ML experimentation that we've just developed. This is all about allowing our customer, our prospects, to build such application as fluently as possible as you were when you were building. I wouldn't call them legacy, but if you think about them, that might be legacy standard applications. So applications that do not have the need to have a model behind it. And this is where the intersection between MLOps, so the list of activities, processes, tools, pipelines that allows you to build a model from training. Actually, before that, data cleansing, training, experimentation and deployment, data ops, and DevSecOps. There are very fine lines between each and every aspect, but GitLab is here to help. And there are there is many content that we are building, many features that we're building in order to support such scenarios. Some of which I've already mentioned, the ML flow integration, where actually we built a front end to an ML flow endpoint where you can store experiments, you can store models, and you can store all sorts of stuff when it comes to machine learning applications. Now, the last piece you might want to do, you don't need to do it right now. You still have time. You still have today and probably tomorrow too. But once you're done doing and testing all AI features we just released, or we are in the process of releasing, you can always transfer the project. And in order to do that, you need to head over to the same project, the Tanaku Racing courses. So instead of going AI, you go to transfer project, and all you need to do is, and you can transfer the project you've built your application on today to your own namespace. So this is something to keep in mind. All right. So that's what GitLab AI will do for you. It will increase development time throughout the entire software development cycle. So not just when writing code, it will help you keep your code secure. And it's never gonna use it to train new models. And it will assist you in developing your AI tools, your AI-based application, like I just said. And with that, I wanted to give some time for questions and answers. I know we answered to some live, and some were answering the chat, some were answering the Q&A. We had lots of participations, but I think we can leave some time to live Q&A. So if you have some questions, you can fire away, and we will respond it live or attempt to.
So I think we got here, if you want, I can read it up for you, Massimo. He says, can you create an action with Duo? Something like creating a change log every merge request.
Can you create an action with Duo? So currently, if the ask is, can I ask GitLab Duo to, I don't know, open a merge request for me? Currently, nope.
No.
Well, actually, yes and no. Like you can't ask that into the chat yet. Could be a nice feature request. But for example, what you can do now is, actually, I think I can show you now. Let me just, because I did it for a previous webinar. Let me just open it. There is a, let me just check it. Can you still
Peter,
see my screen?
Yes, Peter, just to clarify that question. So, walk me through it. So what you're saying that basically can write down into the GitLab Duo chat, say, I want to create an issue, let's say a merge request based on that issue, and you want the AI to take the issue and then relate it to a merge request that was previously created, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think that's what was being asked by Peter. So the concept I took it from is, look, I'm going to open chat. And based on the issue I have here, just create something for me, okay? Or open a merge request on this project and do this. And the sample I'm giving you here is, look, this is a merge request, a real world merge request that was opened for me by GitLab Duo, for example. I didn't write any of this content here. I let everything being handled by GitLab Duo. And how did I do it? I went to vulnerability report. I searched for SAST vulnerabilities. I found one in my project, and I clicked this button, Resolve with AI experiment. So as of today, this is what can be done. But again, as I said, there is no limit to what can be done with models and large language models.
Yeah, but anyways, we really encourage you to open and like a feature request in our like projects. I think our product managers are more than happy to go through it, and if really we can make it happen, it will happen.
Exactly. So I'm gonna mark these as answered live.
Yeah. So the other question here, it says, what model is GitLab Duo using? I think you already said that before.
Yeah, but just to give you a reference, if you head over to this website, let me just paste it into chat so Clemens can see it too. You can see all of this. Is the first part is a snapshot of what's currently available and what's the current status. So you see what's the goal you're trying to achieve and what's the feature that goal really ties into. And you'll see here the tier, the current tier on which that specific feature is available, what type of offering, and by offering, we typically mean software as a service, so gitlab.com, or self-managed, which is everything else. And the current status. Of course, these features are currently being live built. So some of them are on experiment tier, and some of them are beta, and some of them are GA, for example, code suggestions. And by the way, code suggestions right now, up until the 14th of February, is free of use. So if you have a gitlab.com account, and if you have a self-managed installation with at least premium, you can freely access the code suggestion. So you just need to configure whatever requirements are needed, connect it to the cloud, and you're good.
Yeah. The other question here is
Sorry, the
if we have the
LLMs behind the large language
yes.
models. If you just scroll it down a bit, you'll see, for example, that for Git suggestions, we use Vertex AI Cody, which is the family, and the specific large language model, which is called Chat Bison. For Duo Chat, we use Anthropic Claude 2 and a mix of Vertex AI Cody, Text Embedding Gecko. So if you see mixed results, it means that the layer between the prompt and the model detected that your prompt was better handled by a specific model or the other.
Great. Thank you very much, Clemens. Alua. Sorry if I'm not misreading your names. Apologies for that. Have you timetables about implementing Terraform Ansible into GitLab AIC, into GitLab Duo? Just to clarify that, just because it's not in the supported list official documentation, it doesn't mean that it's not gonna work, because I think Brenna was actually answering some questions. It's true that C is not actually in the list, but if you try to ask GitLab Chat Duo to write some code in C, it will work, because I tried it, and actually Brenna tried it with the Fibonacci. Not sure about timetables, probably will let, I don't know if Massimo know that. In my case, I don't know. I think that we don't have anything yet for that, but feel free to answer.
We're bound to whatever the large language model supports, and it all comes down to how much content is available in the open of that specific language. So for example, Terraform and Ansible, if that's not officially supported, it means that as far as I know, the model was tested in terms of quality, in terms of accuracy, and it didn't pass the bar, you know?
Exactly.
So a human reviewed the results based on prompts, on predefined prompts, and the result from the model was not high quality enough. So I think that also answered the Terraform and Ansible. Yeah.
Yeah. The other question, yeah, basically Peter, right again, it's about the logs. If we're able to make the merge requests into a change log. I believe that we don't have it, but it's true that we have the summary on the merge request, Massimo, and then we can use this output from the merge request into GitLab Chat Duo to ask to create a release node format, and then create that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, here, Martin, I think, yeah, probably my colleague Brenner already answered.
Yeah,
with the link.
So the ask was, I don't know if the recording will ever be able to see the chat. So
sure.
the ask from Martin was, which of the features can I use in my local IDE? For example, Eclipse, Visual Studio, or VS Code. Van Breno commented and posted this link. And you can see, based on the language, which IDE supports it. And based on the, if the ask is, I don't know, can I have explain this vulnerability? I think most of them should have them. I don't know if Breno knows where.
Eclipse is not actually, that's something I know.
Yeah, good call. Eclipse, for example, you mentioned it, Martin, is not currently supported. And as far as I know, it's not in the short-term roadmap either. So let me just search for the issue. I'm gonna post it here. So if you're interested, you can just post your interest there, okay?
Yeah, the reason why we're doing that, we are prioritizing the, let's say the IDs, which we can easily integrate them with our solution. That's why I like creating plugins for VS Code, creating plugins for IntelliJ-based IDEs. It's something that we are already working with. I mean, the same applies with NeoVim and things like that. It doesn't mean, as Massimo said, it's not going to happen. We are just saying that for now, it's not there yet.
Here's the issue for the GitLab plugin for Eclipse. So if you're interested, just leave a comment there.
Cool. Another question here. It says Alice saying, is it possible to use GitLab Duo to generate a summary of issues present in Amazon or Epic?
I don't think it's currently possible.
No, right now it's basically in every single type of
It's
issue. I think
contextualized to the specific
exactly,
issue or epic you currently have.
but it's a really good feature, feature request, I would say.
Yeah, we'll take every. I think we have an export of the chat, so we'll take all the inputs you will give us, and just feed it back to the product team. So thank you very much for your inputs, and we'll look forward to see these through.
Cool. Should we allow a couple of more minutes before?
Yeah, let's just allow 1 or 2 more minutes, and then if there are no further questions, we can wrap it up and say bye to everyone.
I
Okay,
think
we have
here,
a
Massimo,
question from Luca. Yeah,
you can
I
go
think
for
he
it.
also translated it. So Lucas asked, look, the example you gave us seems pretty basic. Are you currently using it to develop GitLab, or is it still too early? It's a good question. So this in GitLab terms is called dog fooding, and we're definitely doing it. It's, as everything in life, it's not it doesn't come as an on-off switch, if you may. So it's definitely growing. The usage even internally is growing. It's all about ensuring that the produce code is up to the standards that we have in GitLab. So yes, the answer is yes. Our product engineers are using, as field sales are using it. Me specifically, I'm currently testing because I need to feed that feedback back to the product team in order to provide you prospects and customers the best.
Also
help.
keep in mind that we are using such examples in these kind of workshops because we don't know the level of every single person here. Most of you probably didn't even hear about GitLab Duo, and for us it's easier to teach you in a simple way so you get the idea, and that's why we provide it with the environment for 48 hours so you can play around with it. So that's the reason why we give you these examples. I agree that nobody is just gonna use a calculator all the time. It's a typical interview question. But as I said, Massimo said, I'm also using, actually, we were just talking last time, Massimo and myself, about how to translate certain CI/CD pipelines into GitLab using the GitLab Duo chat and things like that.
Absolutely. Another question on licensing. I know Breno is answering that. Do you want to?
Done.
Yeah, he's super fast. Do you want to replay the answer live, Breno?
Yeah, it just posted. So it is an add-on for Premium and Ultimate. And there's a promotion up to the last day of this month. It's going to be a promotional price. Then it's going to be a normal price in February.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, the link I showed you is just a current snapshot. So whenever you see Ultimate, in that page, and just to give you a reference, this is the page I was referring to. So whenever you see Ultimate here, and the feature is, or the capabilities is currently in status experimental or experiment, does not mean that when it will go GA, general availability, when we will launch an add-on or just incorporate that somewhere else, it will mean that it will stay in Ultimate. There are specific features or capability like explain this vulnerability or solve this vulnerability with merge request, which only makes sense in Ultimate because, again, vulnerability scanning, reporting, and security dashboard is only available on Ultimate. but for the rest, that just doesn't make sense even for us to limit ourselves to Ultimate. So I mean, it's not written in stone. It's something that we are evolving with. So just if you have any kind of requests, so for example, I'm on Premium currently. I don't see myself upgrading in Ultimate, but I really like this feature. Just reach out to us and let us know. Let us and the product know.
By the way, Francisco Gonzalez, you're asking how can you find it? We basically, our team are gonna send it to you, like, because you all registered, and we should have your email. So after that session, you should receive an email with the recording.
And
I think, Massimo, we can just wrap it up then.
Yeah, I just had one last question from Miroslav, but I think Breno already answered it. So yeah, if you want to wrap it up, Idir, that's good.
Perfect. Let's go for it. Thank you very much for your time. Oh,
yeah.
it'll be good to meet you.
Thank you very much and have a good day. Bye.